we both left our six-figure jobs, moved in with my parents
Oh
with
my God.
a newborn baby, and said, you know what? We're going all in. It's ride or die, and that's how we started in a very saturated location, but we had such a unique niche.
Hey guys. I talked to Richelle Pena. Together, she and her husband Will started American Pediatric Dental Group. And that sounds really big, right? Like it's a dental group, it's huge. But in fact, they scraped together a mix of their 401k, a bank loan, and moved in with their parents to buy a single office and then slowly and methodically expanded that into 7 dental offices. The entire time lived with her parents as they built this business. So dreamed big, big vision. You're going to hear all about her brilliance. She was a pharmacist at Target, and she just was really focused on building this out to be a big, strong business. And she did it together with her husband, which is something that I so identify with. She sold it to a dental service operator, a DSO, called Dentistry for Children. And she did that for a number of reasons. She'll talk to you about why. She'll talk to you about some of the multiples when you're building out dental offices. And she'll talk to you about what's next for her, including an awesome book coming out with her husband, all around being a power couple. Can't wait for you to meet Richelle. Take a listen.
She just sold her company. She sat in a room full of men negotiating the biggest deal of her lifetime. Wait, she sold for how much? I can't even believe she managed to get double her valuation. Let's keep this just between us.
Richelle, welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so happy we met. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
There are so many reasons I'm excited to talk to you. So many reasons. And it's not just because I have my dental aligners in. Look, can you tell? They look
Yes, they look great.
That's not the only reason, though. One of the reasons, and in addition to the fantastic business that you sold, is that you built that business working with your husband, which is something that you and I have in common. So let's talk about that. That's where I want to go today. I want to talk about the sale, but I also want to talk about what it was like starting and building this dental practice with your husband. So talk to me all about like the start and how you joined. Give me the skinny.
Yeah, I'll give you the skinny. Well, my husband is a pediatric dentist and I'm a pharmacist. We met in grad school, and never in a million years would I think that we'd be in business together. And so, after we both graduated, we both started working. I worked corporate world at Target, Fortune 500, and I learned so much about business because I went from an intern to a store manager, and I was only 25 years old. They had never taught me anything about financial statements, building team culture, and in pharmacy school. So I was excited. This was all new to me. They gave us an intensive course. And I went home one day to my husband. I was like, why am I learning all this business? I'm a pharmacist. I'm here to empathize with patients, fill prescriptions, talk to doctors. And I didn't know it back then. And, in hindsight, it was the best decision ever to work for a huge corporation and retail. And so my husband then, he was working, and he always knew he wanted to open up a pediatric dental business. But the fear of how do you even start? Like, he has his MBA and he got it while in dental school, and you're going to laugh. But the only reason why he got his MBA was because he needed to be in the library with me to study, because he was in his last year of clinicals. And he's like, I'm going to be so bored, like you studying and I'm not. So even though he had his MBA, he didn't have the real life experience of working and processes and systems. And so fast forward that, he was fed up working for someone. He's like, you know what? I can't do it anymore. I want to open my own business. And it was in 2011. I was pregnant with my first baby. And he asked me one day, he's like, look, I want to open not one, but I want to open many offices and maybe go nationwide, but I need your help. And I looked at him and I was like, so you've already quit your job. I am now the breadwinner. I had a cush 6-figure salary. And he said, I looked at him and I was like, you know what? I believe in the mission and vision of what you want to accomplish. And I know that I could be such a huge, play such a huge role in what you need. And so we both left our 6-figure jobs, moved in with my parents with a newborn baby, and said, you know what? We're going all in. It's ride or die. And that's how we started the pediatric dental office in a very saturated location, but we had such a unique niche.
First of all, the fact that your husband got an MBA to sit in the library with you is just about the cutest thing I've ever heard in my life. So I'm just putting like a little pin in that love story because that is too cute. When you started, did you raise money to do this, or you bootstrapped? You just said, okay, we're going to like throw in our savings. How much did it cost to start it when you were first starting?
Great question. We bootstrapped it. When I mean bootstrapped, I cashed in my 401k, number one.
Okay.
Number two, we moved in with my parents. And number three, we got a $1.3 million loan to build out the office and buy the real estate. So, it was ride or die. And we had 3 months of working capital in the beginning to really get us started. And I'm going to just share this now since we're here. It's happened.
Yes.
So 3 months into it, we were getting patients, but not enough. We were marketing. I was out, in communities, building relationships. And we looked at our payroll and we said, okay, we don't mind if we don't take a paycheck right now, but we need to be able to pay our staff and we need to show them that we got this. And it was only a little team of 3-4 people. And there was a point where I was going to sell my wedding ring. After the 3 months, we were burning through cash. And he looked at me and he was like, look, we got to do something. And so I went back to be a pharmacist part-time just to like feed our kids, live out, even though we're living at home with my parents. And, but then I'll tell you, after a month, the marketing finally worked and we were, oh my God, our doors just like people just started hearing about us through word of mouth. And it was really, really scary. To the point where the people who built out their office said, Dr. Pena, I think you should only build out 4 chairs. Like, I don't think you should build out every room yet because you're new. And my husband and I were like, no, build it all out because we're going to fill up this place. And they thought we were crazy. My mom was so scared for us.
Oh my gosh. So you take out this loan, you cash in your 401k, that leaves you with enough to buy the building, which I think is super, super important. So you buy the space, you build it out, and you have 3 months of working capital, and 3 months come. And wow. So I think it's really important to note that you went back part-time while you figured this out. And then the marketing kicks in. Talk to me about what differentiated you and made you so great. Because this, I know when we spoke at Entrepreneurs, I was really floored by how you grew this. So talk a little bit about the marketing that you did and how you differentiated yourself in that kind of saturated market.
Yeah, I mean, great question. I didn't worry about our competition. Dentists, I already knew they weren't business people and they're like sheeps. If one is marketing in a magazine, the other one goes in that magazine. If one is, doing an event, the other one's doing an event. So I canceled the noise. I didn't look at what they were doing. I wasn't impressed by anybody because I knew that I came from Target. Target has the best marketing. And I used what I learned in the corporate world, such as they would have me as a pharmacist go around to all the businesses around with a little Target bag, a dog, and ask people to come to the pharmacy and fill their prescription. So I used my networking, my relationship building, and I did the same thing. I went to anywhere where there were kids, pediatricians. They're our number one referral. I also, partnered. I'm like, where are moms? That's what I always think to myself is, where are the people that we need? And so I went and I found the biggest community events where we could have exclusivity, and that was key. I didn't want any other dentist there. And we came out with, you got to spend money to make money. So not only were we on social media ads, Google ads, there was no Instagram yet, but I was also boots on the ground, and my husband is very handsome. I would give him a box of donuts, And in the morning when we didn't have patients, I'm like, listen, honey, I need you to go to all these pediatricians' offices, introduce yourself as the doctor, give them donuts, give them our swag. I was so big on marketing material. Like, if a pen had our no-go on it, it had to be the best pen. If I was going to give something like a goodie, it had to be the best because people remember that. And so he went, and between him, me, and like the other staff, we would go literally door to door. We would Google all the pediatricians in the area, and we flood the market. That's our marketing strategy. The second one is what made us different. That's the second part of your question. In 2011, there were dentists wanted to work Monday through Thursday, golf on Friday, and not open on Saturday. So we had to be different. We opened Friday, we opened Saturday, and we were open late evenings. Why? Because we needed to accommodate schedules for working moms. Not everybody is work at
school.
And school.
It's so annoying when dentists don't have hours that work for moms and families. Like, it's very, very frustrating.
Yes. And and then the one of the biggest ones though was when my husband was doing his residency at UCSF in California, there was patients on state Medicaid insurance that were traveling from hours just to see, him at the school. And he's like, this can't be. There has to be a private dentist that can accept patients that are on state Medicaid, that accepts children with special needs, that can work in the hospital, do dental treatment. And because he had literally UCSF Dental is one of the best dentist program in the nation. He's like, I have something that most people don't have. And so we saw children with special needs. He has hospital dentistry benefits. But most importantly, we don't care if you're Black, white, Asian, you have PPO, HMO, if you're whatever insurance you are. We took everything. And I like to say that we were the target of pediatric dentistry. We weren't Walmart. We weren't, Neiman Marcus. We were Target where anybody could go. And by providing great service, word of mouth is like key to our success.
Wow. I love how you identified with Target in terms of both the accessibility, but also that branding and that feel. I mean, that's really, really innovative. So how did you go so you opened American Pediatric Dental Group. How did you go from one location to multiple locations? Talk to me about that.
Well, we saw that the first location that we built out was booming. And before we opened a second location, we actually hired another doctor. And funny story, when we had our grand opening for our one office, one doctor, we had one of our family member friends come up to Will and I and say, this is American Pediatric Dental Group, but there's only one doctor and one office. Why is it called group? And my husband looked at them and chuckled and was like, well, because the vision is to continue growing. And when you think small, you stay small. When you think, and when you think big, well, sky's the limit. Even if you don't reach nationwide, which we never did because our family was first, right? And we knew it would require too much travel, and we didn't want to become super ultra wealthy and then our kids be like, my parents were never home. So how we went from 1 to 2, first we had to hire another doctor to replace Will so that he can work at that location while we built out the second office. And we looked at, we live in South Florida. Where is another city where we never opened in high class or low class. We were in middle class. Honestly, I used Target again. I knew all the studies. People that go to Target, Target only opens where there are moms, suburbia, in big areas because that's their market. And that was our same target market. So it really helped me really get the insider of like, okay, let's open here. And then we used the same model that we used to open our first location. We bought the building or the location as a real estate. Then we built it out and we made the look completely different. And from there, 2 years later, we opened the third one and we were building a team. We wouldn't have been where we are today without our team. And I think when people ask me, how'd you do it? There's no I in team. It wasn't just Will and I. We had our entire team rowing the same way. And everybody that worked there, I'm telling you, even the doctors, you weren't coming to work for a paycheck. You were coming to work to make a difference in these kids' lives. And I'm telling you, that was another secret to our success, because we weren't focused on the money. Man, we were still living with my parents at home, and I was pregnant. I had my second baby, 13 months apart. So for us, we knew we were after something so big that we knew that eventually it'll all work out. And so from one location, we just kept replicating, and we started building systems and processes, creating manuals, so every office was easier to open. And this is brick and mortar. This is not an online business that didn't require a huge team, art contract.
No, it requires a team and capital to buy the buildings. I mean, you got to keep repeating that model. And so you probably didn't actually get to a space where you were making money for quite some time, like meaning bringing it into you. You were pouring it all into the business to grow.
100%.
How many locations did you get to before you decided to sell?
7.
What's the moment where you decide that you're ready to sell?
Well, after COVID, we never went into this with, we're going to sell the business. But 10 years, especially in the medical space, especially because we were so heavily insurance-based, a lot of things started changing after COVID. The expenses of running a business, payroll, it was creeping up to you. And when you work with state insurance, even PPO and HMO, there's only a certain amount of money that their fees will increase, but it's not enough where our expenses were starting to creep up. And truthfully, running 130 team members, 18 doctors, it was taking a toll on Will and I. It was the roller coaster, like you mentioned. We had no private equity. Every office that we opened, we would use the money from there to help sustain it until that one was able to open on its own. We had so much bank loans, that we were paying. So we were heavy in our loans. There came a point to say, okay, we had a lot of people already asking to buy us since we opened our doors, and we would always say no, no, no. But after COVID, it was almost like a sign that my husband was starting to lose sleep, get high blood pressure, and the anxiety of, okay, we're doing great now, but these expenses are creeping up. We did have our best year in COVID. We realized, our kids are so little, and we have the priorities in our life is God, family, and then business. And the business was doing so well. We had an EBITDA that was so good. And we said, you know what? I mean, do we really want to continue this roller coaster ride? Or do we say, you know what, this is good enough, and let's stop here and let someone take over to make sure that our team had really good benefits, that they could provide them with the benefits that we couldn't. And we didn't want to eventually say, you know what, we got to close this whole operation because where would these kids go? So that's when we decided now's the time to exit, because there is a golden period, and this is so true, where it's that time to exit. Because right now, 2024, they're not getting the multiples that we got.
That's right. I mean, this is an interesting thing. There's so much that you said that's interesting. I think one piece that people need to realize is that usually about 80 to 90% of a business owner's net worth is tied up in their business. So on paper, you're looking at that EBITDA and you're like, man, we are multi-millionaires. And in reality, you're living at your parents' house, or just really not being able to extract that value. So a lot of times it's how far can you go before the amount of stress becomes not worth it? And can you extract enough at a golden time, like you said, where a multiple is, really one that is great. I had the same experience. I think we sold in the same year, right? Did you sell in 21?
Yes.
Yeah. So 21 was the golden year for acquisitions, for sure, in terms of timing. And people ask me, can you time acquisitions? And you can't, but also you can. If you know the timing and your finances are good, then you're in good shape. So, okay. So you sold to a DSO, to Dentistry for Children, D4C, yes?
Yes.
Okay, tell our listeners what a DSO is so that they understand sort of how those operate.
Okay, great. Great question. And it's something that Will and I didn't even know. We were building a DSO. When you own multiple locations, you are essentially a DSO, a dental service organization. Now, the big DSOs, right, the big dogs, they have the infrastructure to help continue to grow 10, 20, 30, 200 locations, because now they have their own marketing department, they're an HR, they have a legal department. And when you have a lot of dental offices, you get even better rates with insurance companies. So, and you get better rates for supplies, right? The bigger you are, they're giving you a higher discount on a lot of things. And it takes a lot, even just to run a 7-office, 130, one time we had 150 team members, and it takes a lot to grow that. So being part of a dental service organization the benefit is really, you know what, being able to leverage their resources, basically the management side, which is the hardest part of running an organization. And we decided to sell to a DSO that's really, we interviewed 2. Okay. And if they're listening to this eventually, here's what it is. We went with a company that we know could take care of our baby, our team, and that understood pediatric dentistry. We didn't want to go with one. We interviewed one who really was like, I mean, they gave us such a good deal, but they had, and anybody who's listening, the golden handcuffs is what we like to call it. When you sell, sometimes they want you to stay on for X amount of years. They want you to continue to grow. But truthfully, if you're selling, it's because you're done. Like, you don't want to do this anymore. You want somebody else to take it to the next level. And so the one organization that we didn't end up going with was a more general dentist, and they needed help building the pediatric side. And we were just, both of us were just kind of checked out. We're like, we don't want that headache. And
you were burnt.
Yeah, we were burnt.
You were burnt already. Yeah. So, okay. So it sounds like the 2 reasons you went with Dentistry for Children was, 1, the focus on pediatric dentistry, so they knew what you did. And then 2, you didn't have a level of golden handcuffs that that felt prohibitive. Okay. So what, in the dental space, educate me a little bit. What are the typical multiples? Just give me the range and maybe where they were then and how much they dropped. Do they drop by several times? Are they that? I assume dental practices are valued on EBITDA,
yes,
right? A multiple of your EBITDA?
Yes.
Okay. And what are the typical multiples for that type of business?
And it depends on if you're an oral surgeon, if you're a pediatric dentist. So I don't want to speak incorrectly. I'll tell you, for pediatric dentistry, it's usually between 6 to 10.
It's similar in the agency space. It's very similar. So it's we say 4 to 8 now, and it's 4 to 8 now, but it was 6 to 10.
Right. Especially because the more specialized you are, the higher. But even if you're a general dentist, you can get really good multiples, but with the interest rates right now, it's hard and
really hard. So when you sold, did you sell the practices and the buildings, or did you keep the
No
buildings?
way. We did not sell the real estate. Are you kidding? That's our passive income, our retirement, and the dentistry, the field of dental and medical, the rate of closing down is so minimal. That's why banks were so eager to loan us money, because they know that dentists are not going to move around. Once you have a good hold in a city, you're not moving. And so we were not selling our real estate, but they weren't even interested in the real estate. Their game is not real estate. They want dental offices. So for us, it was great because, like you said, you look paper rich when you have your EBITDA, but when you really are able to pay off all the loans, because that was part of the deal, is we have to pay off all our loans in order to sell. It was the best thing ever, because it would have taken us 30 years to pay all the loans that we had.
You paid off, sweet. So you get this multiple. You pay off all the loans. Now you own all the real estate outright. You no longer have to worry about the dental practice, which is the intensive part of the work. Now you own these locations outright and rent I assume to your acquirer, right? Did you end up renting?
Yes, and for market value, and then every year 3% increase. I mean, let me tell you, anybody who is like, you make money in real estate, like you got to make sure, like real estate is key, especially when you have a good tenant. Like medical is really good. The default rate and so it was a great relief, and we never look back and say that was the worst decision. We actually love the company who purchased us. None of our doctors left. Our managers are still there. We made sure that we flew up to Atlanta to their headquarters. We visited their office. We met with the whole corporate team, and we have the same vision, the same values, and really they let dentists practice dentistry. They really are just handling the management side, which is why our dentists are still happy, because nobody says it's not about the money. They're not like, oh, you need to do more fillings or cavities. They don't dictate any of that. Actually, they really take care of the doctors, which is such a huge thing. But selling, like having the real estate, paying off everything. We have no more loans. And when I tell you we had a lot of bank loans and a lot real estate loans.
It probably was crushing. It probably felt that debt, I think is very, very challenging to be able to really crush. Wow. Okay. Is there anything that you would have done differently? I know you were very happy with your exit. Anything you look back at and say, oh, shoot, I would have done this?
No. Not a thing. Honestly, we love the company who bought us. We are very happy with the multiple that we got. And with our kids still being so young, our kids it was 3 years ago, so they were all under the age of 10. And really, when they were babies, they don't remember us like hustling. They just now know that we're home and we're able to do all the things that we can do. And because we worked really hard in our late 20s and 30s to be able to exit. And there's nothing that we would do differently. No.
That is so awesome. How about working with your partner and working with your spouse? Any really good pieces of advice for this? I always talk about this, but I'm interested in you.
Oh, yes. Especially when you don't really know how it's going to work out. One of the biggest advice before you go into business with your husband, I think you really need to know each other relationship right? When they get upset, how do they get upset? How do they handle it? How do they, deal with challenges, with failures? And those are the things that my husband and I were together for 5 years before we started working together. And, I knew he's a strong personality. He knows I have a strong personality. He knew that I'm an extrovert. I knew that he's like very brain. He loves like the finances. So going into it, I wasn't scared to work with him because I was like, okay, I know this is going to work. But when you're in it and then you hit roadblocks together, I was the calm and the faithful person, because you can't have two people that freak out when something doesn't happen. That's right. Really focusing on each other's strengths and being each other's support network, I think, was key. And, now there's podcasts, there's entrepreneurs, there's communities. We felt alone. Like, at least for anybody who's in it alone, I feel really bad, because it's not like you could tell your manager, you can't tell your team members that the house is burning, because then they'll freak out. So there were many days where we had to fake it till we made it, but at least we had each other to lean on. But at the end of it, I was like, I need to get off this roller coaster, because I'm very good at managing my emotions. We both worked out together. We started running marathons together. I mean, we focus a lot on our personal development and growth, but it's a lot of mental health. Like, you get anxiety, you can't sleep, your stomach, you have stomach problems because you're like, oh my God, are we gonna make it? Yeah. But at the end of the day, looking back, I would do it all over again, and I wouldn't choose any other business partner other than my husband, because when there's money involved. And I would tread people to, tread carefully, even if you're best friends. At the end of the day, if one is not working as hard as you and there's money involved, eventually that friendship could really get affected.
I wonder if that's when you have a successful exit with your partner. And now I'm going into my next thing. It's very hard for me to think about, would I have any other partner? Because it made so much sense for so many reasons, right? Like we knew each other so well. All the money came into one house. Like all of that stuff was really great. At the same time, after I sold, I was so happy to be able to just be his wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I felt like, okay, now I'm just the wife. So like, it's interesting. I think about that a lot with partners. Like, would I do it again with him? I would do the journey we did again for sure. I wonder if I would start another business together because I've really enjoyed, like, you know what I enjoy, Richelle? I'll tell you. How was your day? How was your day? I'm like not already knowing the answer because we built the business. Like in a business, I used to know what his day was. And sometimes his day was very, very stressful. And I'd rather sort of just approach it as a wife than a partner in this moment. But the 17 years that we built the business together, I just look back and it's like invaluable learning from each other. It just
yeah.
is great.
I mean, I hear you, and I think when you can compartmentalize when you're working with your spouse. So we were really good at keeping work at work, and at home we would do date nights. We would remind ourselves not to be roommates. We went on trips together. I mean, we couldn't have done it without my parents. It takes a village to raise kids while building a business. And there were days where my husband and I were like, we just need a date night. We need an out. And speaking of which, my husband and I are building another business, but I love it because we both are like so driven and we understand each other, and we made it something successful work. And like building this new online healthcare business together, it's like he has his genius, I have my genius, and then we can strategize together and we trust each other. So for me, I think because we're so good at like, babe, let's go on a date night, let's do new adventures together, let's work out together, and nothing is fake. Like we fight, of course, but at least I know I could lean on to him and he can lean on to me. Especially in this new venture again. So I would do it over and over again.
You're doing it again. Tell us about this business because I think it's brilliant.
Awesome. So Will and I, for about a year and a half, we kind of just were like, okay, we're taking a breather from the operations and running and getting those like scary emails and, our finance director telling us we're running out of money. Let's just enjoy a little bit more. And then afterwards, in true fashion of high achievers and entrepreneurs, we got bored. I got bored. I was like, I need to use my brain cells more, and I want to create value, and I want to do something again with a huge purpose. So I started my Lifestyle Leader Instagram because I wanted to help other women entrepreneurs, which has led into now, you know what? It's great, but I want to give back to healthcare professionals in particular, our niche.
Well, it's because it's what you know so deeply. I mean, and what you did was so brilliant with like the branding and the business, thinking of it like a business versus just a medical practice.
Exactly. And so what we're doing now is basically taking everything we learned. We created an online healthcare business, and we want to help build community around it and really destigmify the fact that you can be a doctor, you can be a dentist, you can own your own practice. And we're going to teach you how and how we did it so that it feels a little bit lighter and you're not just relying on your lawyer, on your accountant, on so many people, because I think there's so many great things with opening and owning your own business, but it's very scary when you come out of medical dental school with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And now you feel like, man, I wish I could work on my own, but I have this debt. You could do both. So that's our track, and I think we're going to do business to business, business to consumer, and it's going to be great. And we're going to build it slow, and we're going to really make an impact. That's the most important thing.
Well, I think after you sell a business, after you build one and sell it, it's like the second one, so much more. Like you just get it. And I can't wait to watch you guys soar. And you're coming out with a book, right? The Power Couple. Okay, tell us about the Power Couple.
One day, why this book came about is there was one day that I was working with my husband, and it was like really hard. I almost freaking quit. And I Googled how to work with your husband, how to be the wife of a CEO, because he's the pediatric dentist, so obviously he's a CEO. I couldn't find articles. I couldn't find a book. There was no podcast back then. There was no communities. I'm sure there's a lot of women out there who work with very successful men, And they don't understand sometimes, like, you know, their personality. It takes a certain personality. And I don't, even though I'm also a co-founder, I have a different personality, right? I'm driven in different ways, and I'm direct and get things done in a different way. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book of what it was like to work with my husband and build a business and have a family. And when we decided to go back into business together, I restructured the book so he could actually be a co-author to give his perspective of working together. And it's such a good book for anybody who wants to build a business, to see how we scaled. We gave some of our secrets, our golden nuggets, but also how did we scale while nurturing our 3 small kids. We traveled 40 days. I'm not lying. 40 days a year. It didn't matter if the office was burning down, they would call the firefighters. Like, for us, it was God, family, and business. And then also the book talks about, you know, the secrets to working with your spouse. So anybody who wants to open a business, maybe be in business with their spouse, partner, or even their friend, should definitely read this book, because there's a lot of things to consider, because it is a relationship, it's a partnership, and it's not easy.
Richelle, I'm going to read it, and it's 100% when you hear me announce, like, big news, we're launching a new business together, I'm going to be like, credit to Richelle Pena. Love. Amazing. Amazing. Richelle, thank you so much for coming on the show today. So transparent, such an inspiration. Love what you've done, and I'm about to go buy some real estate right now, girl.
Oh my God, thank you so much. This was so fun. You're amazing, and I can't wait to see you again in person and give you a big hug.
I know you're the best.